Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Saturday morning for the Your Overseas Home virtual event. My name is Abby, and I'll be your host for this seminar, Buy to Let in Spain. Could your property pay for itself? It's great to have you all with us, whether you're watching live or catching up on demand. I'm delighted to welcome our guest speaker, Shirin Sharifi, an estate agent at the Spanish Estate Agent. Before we start, I'd like to let you know we will open up the floor to questions towards the end. Should you have any questions as we go along, please type them in the Q&A area below and I can ask Shirin them on your behalf. Shirin, over to you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, my name is Shirin Sharifi. I'm the sales director for the Spanish Estate Agent. I've been working in real estate here on the Costa del Sol for over 24 years. I have two offices, one in Estepona and one in San Pedro. But very important for you to know, we cover the whole coast from Malaga to Gibraltar, and we do go inland as well. Obviously, this topic is on rental investment properties, which we have plenty to choose from. We speak several languages in the office. I've got staff, all of which have more than 10 years experience. And yeah, we cover that area really, really well. So.
Amazing. So why is Spain a good choice for property investment?
So obviously it's been number one or number two destination for Northern Europe for decades. And the numbers of people coming into Spain, again, it's voted time and time again, most desirable destination, certainly the Costa del Sol for its terms of weather, safety, golf, water sports, trekking, cycling, health, organic food, all the different reasons why people love to holiday there. It makes it a very fantastic destination to buy to let. Now, we have areas that have quite a lot of hotel rooms, and therefore that market is covered. But you come away from the airport, for example, and you enter areas like Mijas Costa, Marbella, and the Benavis Estepona area, and there are very, very few hotel rooms. In fact, we don't have the high-rise hotels with hundreds of hotel rooms. And since the pandemic, of course, people prefer not to stay in public spaces as much. They love their own space with their families. So that kind of personal rental property has become really, really popular, and we have a great shortage of rental properties to rent out. So we have plenty of product for people if they did want to do it, but we just we have such demand, we don't have as many properties as we could rent out. So that's a good reason. Obviously, the difference between short and long term, which we'll go over. But yeah, all the reasons why people, and the other thing that's really important is that the number of flights coming. Malaga Airport is the busiest airport in Spain after Barcelona and Madrid, which is a huge, huge plus because flights are very, very cheap from Northern Europe to fly into. You also have Gibraltar, of course, to fly into from London and Manchester, but really Malaga Airport has doubled in size in the last few years, and you can, cheap flights are incredibly easy to find to Malaga. So again, it makes it that really desirable destination. The infrastructure is completely is head and shoulders above many of the other coastlines, and it makes for a really interesting destination to rent out. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's a beautiful coastline as well, isn't it? I had no idea actually that Malaga was so popular. I suppose for our buyers to kind of understand, as kind of non-residents, can you rent out your property in Spain?
Absolutely. When you buy a property, you have a non-residence tax on your property anyway, and that's worked out individually on each property based on the cadastral value in the town hall, which I can't give you percentages right now. However, if you were that's, as I say, a non-residence tax, and it's almost like they take for granted that you're going to be renting that property out. So that's something you pay anyway. As a non-resident, you have if you were to do it, really as a business, you have income tax to pay. And I've got all the figures if anybody wants to contact me. Obviously, it's a different tax rate for people within the Schengen area and a different tax rate for people outside of the Schengen area. And then, of course, you have what can be deducted from your income and your costs, that can be deducted from your taxes as well. So people within the Schengen area can deduct everything. People outside the Schengen area can't. So it's important to look into that and get all the legal advice beforehand. But yeah, as a non-resident, of course, you can rent out your property. Yeah.
Perfect. I mean, that's great to know. I'm sure lots of people will be taking advantage of that. In terms of, I suppose, how eligible people are, is there any criteria that you need to meet to be able to buy a property in Spain and then rent it out?
Well, you can buy a property, that's not a problem. The property it depends. If you're doing long-term rental, you don't need any particular criteria other than the property is safe, of course. If you're renting out short-term, that's when it becomes there's a bit more control. So short-term properties, to advertise on things like booking.com or Airbnb and so on, you must have what's called a tourist license. Okay, that's there are certain criteria that you have to achieve. One is air conditioning, Wi-Fi. There's certain things you have to have, but it's not that complicated. The property normally has to have what's called a first occupation license as well to get that tourist license. The first occupation license only came in the early 90s. So some buildings, of course, are older than that, and therefore they don't have first occupation license. But normally they will have a replacement document to cover you for that. For certainly in Estepona, they do provide alternative document. So again, that's important to know that you can get. But also very important to know for short term is that the urbanizer, say you buy an apartment within a complex, an urbanization as we call it. Sometimes the community, as a community, have voted not to allow short-term Airbnb type rentals, and that's a question you should ask as well when looking to buy. Okay, that's very, very important. Sometimes they will have, again, it's kind of, you've got to go into depth. Sometimes they've voted it in, but they haven't notarized it. It hasn't gone to the notary and put into the statutes. And therefore you can still buy and you can still rent out short term, but it's not, it's something you should know about. You should ask that question and see that it's allowed. Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose it's mostly about doing your research and I guess picking a property that's best for you based.
I've lost you. Sorry. Yeah, it's important to, if anybody else can hear me, it's important to find the right property. Your agent should always be able to answer those questions. If they don't know immediately, please, ask the questions. If you are looking to do short-term properties, a short-term rental, sorry, do ask the questions. And we as agents will always know the properties that are showing what you can and can't do. We liaise with all the other agents. The way we work in terms of selling a property, we act as a property finder at no extra cost to you, but we go out there and we find the properties and we draw on the properties of all the other agents. It's very much like the American system in that we have a network of agents and we all work together. So you can work with just one agent, and if you feel comfortable with that agent, if they're answering the questions that you're asking, and you can see that they have your interest, work with that one agent. Hopefully it's me. I've got, as I say, 24 years experience here on the coast, but it's very, very important to get the right agent. You don't have to have that conversation with a million different agents. You won't be pulled in different directions. So yeah, if you find an agent that you like working with, do stick with them. And it is hard finding, on the internet who's who. So we've obviously been recommended by your overseas guides. Ah, you're back. You're back.
Hello, Sharon. Can you hear me again?
Yes, yes, yes.
Perfect. Sorry, everybody, for that. I guess that's one of the issues sometimes with a virtual event is technical difficulties. I'm sure Shirin gave you some really important information there. I'll just kind of jump into my next question. Apologies, Shirin, if you've kind of just covered this.
No.
But I know something that lots of people want to know about is what is the average cost of actually maintaining a property out in Spain?
The average cost, again, it's so individual on each property because your biggest cost normally is going to be your community fees if it's within a complex. Even some villas on in certain urbanizations will have a community fee to pay. Um, your running costs will be your community fees on a two-bedroom, two-bathroom apartment. That's going to be anything between 90 euros a month up to 250, 300 euros a month, depending on what kind of facilities they have on site. Does it have 24-hour security as opposed to 12-hour security? Does it have an indoor heated swimming pool? Does it have all sorts of, services? Does it have a gym? Does it have elevators? All that kind of thing adds to the cost. Mature gardens, that it all adds. And the more you have, the better the proposal for your rental. However, the higher the community fees. So that's one thing to think about. Then you will have your local council tax, as you'd call it. It's called the IBI, the EB as we call it, and that's minimal cost again on a two-bed, depending on which council you're in. Are you in Mijas? Are you in Estepona? Are you in Benavis? Benavis, for example, has one of the cheapest town hall rates in the whole of Spain. And so it can really vary on, it can be, for example, 800 euros a year in one district, but it would be 400 euros in a different district. So it's very, very individual on each property and in each area that you're looking in, and it's questions you must ask, and any good agent must be able to answer those questions on each property for you. And you have to do the figures, but more often than not, the profit is wide enough to cover that comfortably.
Perfect.
Obviously, you've got water and electricity and
Yeah,
so on.
of course. Brilliant. And
The,
when you,
the one of the biggest
sorry,
costs, sorry, I must obviously, being a hot country, a lot of people worry about air conditioning, and it's something that you have to have for the short-term rentals. Now, a lot of people say, well, what if somebody leaves it on all day and goes out for the day and so on and so forth? It's very simple. You can have the hotel room system where that has to be in to activate electricity and things like that. You can have, a lot of people now have intelligent home systems. And of course, the deposit that you take will cover any extraordinary bills as well. So yeah, that's another big
perfect.
cost.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Always good to kind of know about those things as well. I suppose when it comes, I guess, to buying a buy to let over in Spain, are there any legal issues or restrictions that we should be aware of when we get into this?
The restrictions I've kind of covered is the tourist license, but also the communities that don't allow it, and some that you can get around and some you just can't. Um, yeah, there are very few restrictions, is what I'm trying to say, but just be aware that certain communities don't allow it. Of course, you have to put your tax returns and so on. I would always say if you've got more than one property that you're renting out, then you have to, keep accounts and so on. On your first property or one property only, it tends to be, as I say, your non-residence tax tends to cover it. But yeah.
Perfect. And so, how can an overseas buyer manage their second home or holiday home in Spain if they're based out in the UK?
So we have a company we work hand in hand with that does management, and there are different levels that you can sort of hope for and ask for or pay for, very importantly. The one is if you have a local girl, let's say a local person, let's say, that goes in and does the turnaround, which means you manage the calendar online, excuse me, and you have just somebody that goes in and cleans, turns it around, changes sheets, and so on. And you have a fixed cost for that. That's sort of like the basic level. They hold keys and so on. Or you can go for the full management where they're getting the rentals for you. They are advertising it for you. They are putting in shampoos and all the products. They're picking your clients up from the airport. They have got a little food and drinks hampered to a welcome pack kind of thing. So it's all, as much or as little as you want, depending, on the type of property, I suppose you've got as well. And you pay anything between 15 and 25 to 30% for that, depending on what level of service you have. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Seems quite straightforward then to have somebody
You have
help
to have
out.
somebody local, yeah, somebody
Yeah,
local, somebody there, somebody that's going to look out for it, on it, somebody that's going to check in on it, even if it's not rented. Yeah, it's really important to keep an eye on things. And actually, sometimes properties are better off rented out than not,
yeah,
rather than kept empty. Some people that never even thought about renting their properties out after a few years decided, you know what, instead of leaving it to sort of collect dust and so on and so forth, why not make a few quid renting it out? And a lot of people, if they're not there in the summer, for example, can make huge profits renting it out in summer. The important thing for our area is to explain we are more expensive than the rest of the costas. That's a given, and that's something we live with. However, I've talked about the number of flights coming into Malaga, but also we have the best weather all round. Okay, this is very important because you buy a property somewhere else, you can only rent it out in summer. That limits your investment massively. All the restaurants are closed in winter, this, that, and the other. Where we are, that just doesn't happen. We've got a huge population of people living, working all year round on the coast. It's not just a holiday destination. We've got big business centres in both Malaga and Gibraltar. So we've got a big population of people living there full time. The weather means that people can enjoy their favorite restaurants on all year round. The coast doesn't shut down. The other thing is, very importantly, we have a huge golfing community. We've got over 100 golf courses along the Costa del Sol, some of them the best in the world. We have major championships played here on the coast, and the golfing season is very much in the winter. So we have a very high level of rentals in the winter as well. We have a very special light here on the Costa del Sol, which means a lot of artistic people come and they rent properties that are not the usual 2-bed, 2-bath apartment. They like to go inland sometimes. They like to rent out country properties that you wouldn't normally associate with rentals. So we're very lucky in that we've got an all year round season. Plus, 2 hours away from where we are, we have the ski slopes of Sierra Nevada. I mean, it's so unique to be able to go skiing in winter, but sunbathe one day and be up on the slope skiing another day. We have there's just so much that you can do from where we are. From Malaga, you can get a train to Madrid in 2 hours. Granada, all these different places where Malaga and coast is a hub to be able to access. So
yeah.
very important to know that for us it's an all year round season, not just a summer season. So, and it's important for your rental investment.
Yeah, I mean, it all sounds amazing. I'm not surprised lots of people want to spend, all year out there. But are there any kind of common pitfalls that you see with buyers who are looking to rent out their properties in Spain? And if there are, how can we avoid those?
Sure. The one major pitfall which everybody will have heard about is squatters. it's in, Spain is a socialist country, so the weight is very much on the owner, and tenants are heavily protected. So it's once they're in, you have 48 hours to get them out, and after that it becomes very difficult. Now, the way you get around that, of course, is to secure the property properly before, when it's empty. And that's another reason why it's very important to have a management company or somebody local to keep an eye on it. The other way, which is the easiest way to overcome that, is to have an insurance policy on the property, and if you have tenants even, they've got rights to stay as well. I'll just go over the rights that they have, but there are two types of contract on a long term. The only problems I'm explaining are really on long-term rentals, okay, and squatters. And the way you get around it is an insurance policy that covers you for any litigation that you have against tenants or squatters. And also the rights that tenants have is that there are two types of contract. One is a permanent home contract or a primary home contract. The other one is a non-primary home contract. That one's a lot easier to get through. But if they do have a primary home contract, then they have legal right to stay for 5 years. Okay, if they're paying the rent, and the bills and so on. And if they are, then they have a right to stay there for 5 years, which if you're buying for a long-term rental investment, that's fine. However, 4 months before the end of that 5 years, you have the right to give them notice. Okay. And if you do give them notice within 4 months beforehand, then they legally have to move. It has to be written notice. But in Spain, it is quite difficult, as I say, with tenants and so on, and squatters. But you can get insurance, and if you secure your property, I've been working in real estate here for 24 years, and I've never known it for any of my clients' properties. But it's something that gets written about, and it's like a big hoo-ha. But there are ways you can protect yourself.
Perfect. Well, I think it's time to head into the questions from our audience.
Sure.
We do have one here from Kelvin. It's quite a specific question. So, Kelvin, if you're still listening, I would highly recommend that you actually head over to Shirin's booth at the Spanish Estateagent and speak to her there about your personal situation. But Kelvin is asking, if you live outside the Schengen area, he believes you pay income tax on the gross rents received without being able to deduct any costs at all. He's wondering, is this so? This is correct. And he's also asking, I guess this is the more specific part. He's asking, what is the rate of tax payable? And is this reportable and payable quarterly?
Okay, the rates that I have, in terms of how you can pay them, I will find out for you, and you can head over to the stand and we'll discuss it. But for EU residents or within the Schengen area, the income tax is 19% on net profit, so you can deduct. Whereas with people outside the Schengen area, it's 24% gross income, so that you're not able to deduct costs and so on. So it does make a big difference, obviously. But again, I would say I have clients, doing really English clients, of course, doing really well from their rental properties. If what I'm talking to a lot of clients at the moment, I do a lot of shows, a lot of seminars, and a lot of them do say, "Oh, I'm getting my Irish passport, or I'm getting my Polish passport because of so on." Yeah, obviously, if you can, then that's a big plus if you're looking to live, invest, or buy in Spain at the moment. But we see things changing, but as it is at the moment, yeah, they're the figures. I can send that out to anybody that wants the information. So please do contact me.
Perfect. That's so helpful. We have another question here, just asking, what are the best areas for property investment in Spain, and can an estate agent help me with that choice?
Yeah, I think it's important to get advice on that, because what you fall in love with yourself may not necessarily be the best rental property. Having said that, most people like the same thing. So coastal properties rent out really, really well. Um, anything near the beach, that's a given. But again, I must stress, our holiday season is not just the beach. It's not just, you know, the beach holidays. We have a massive golfing market. So therefore, properties on golf courses, for example, are really, really good, depending on which golf course, of course, but and we can steer you in the right direction. But it's very important because summer you're going to rent your property out anyway. It doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't, that's a given. During the winter, that's going to be harder to rent out. But if you've got some sort of appeal, like it's on a golf course, the golfers go gaga with a golfing property, but they also like to be able to go out of a night. So groups of golfers will come over, dump their bags, they'll go out of an evening. They normally get bused to the golf courses they booked for the day, but they do like to have a centre that they can go to of a night to eat out, drink out, and have access to amenities in that sense. So that's quite important. Some people say to me, oh, but country properties won't rent out so well. That's not actually true so much where we are. We do have some nice country properties and properties within villages that rent out really well. I have a client that has a property in the village of Benavis, which is, about, I would say it's about 8 kilometers away from the beach. And that's a 3-bedroom property. And he, last year, without even trying, he rented it out for 38 weeks of the year at an average of 1,100 a week short term. So that was, that's an example. That's a little, interesting one. Anything, obviously Puerto Banús is a big pull for rentals because of its reputation and Marbella and the big boats and the cars and so on. An area called Nueva Andalucía, where you've got 5 championship golf courses just behind Puerto Banús. Again, very, very popular. But going towards Estepona now, things are really opening up in places like Estepona, Benavis, all those kind of areas. But this is very general. When you're with us, we will advise you, maybe even show you some examples of rentals in those areas. And you can do it yourself. You can look on Airbnb, you can look on booking.com and see how much they really that's the proof in the pudding. But anyone, 38 weeks is quite exceptional. Just ask as many questions as you can.
Perfect. That's really great advice. Well, I think that's actually all we are going to have time for today. But thank you
Sure.
so much for all of your
Pleasure.
insightful tips and advice. For everyone listening, we strongly recommend that you do get in touch with the Spanish estate agent directly to discuss your requirements in detail. Any questions that weren't answered, please head over and
Sure.
speak to Shirin personally on her booth. She's going to be available all day, I believe.
I'm
So
here all
she'll
day. I'm
perfect.
here all day, but obviously I'm more than happy to do one-to-one sessions today, tomorrow, whenever. So just grab my
Amazing.
email address and a phone number, whatever, and get in contact. I'm very happy to do video calls like this as well.
Perfect. That's so helpful, Shirin. You'll be able to find Shirin in the exhibition hall in the Spain section. But thank you so much again, Shirin, for sharing your knowledge with us
Pleasure.
today. And thank
Thank
you to
you.
all of our listeners for joining us. Good luck with all of your plans to purchase the property over in Spain. Thank you
Brilliant.
so much,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.